What am I to do?
Welcome to RazorBranding Podcast with Jackie Russo. To learn more about how to improve your brand, visit brandrusso.com.
Hi, welcome to RazorBranding Podcast and today's special edition of Entrepreneurs. All day long, we are interviewing and celebrating entrepreneurs and their journey because it's National Entrepreneur Day. And so next up is one of our favorites, Scott Laverne, and he's going to talk about the journey he's had with his company, EDC. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jackie.
Thanks for being here. So if you don't mind, give us a little bit of the backstory, what EDC is, how it started, your role, and, kind of from beginning to now.
Sure. So started EDC at the ripe old age of 23, right out of college. And I was doing some kind of consulting work in college, do IT support. And I told my wife, if we're going to start a business, now's the time because we're already dirt poor and we have nowhere else to go but up. And so that's what we did. It was, kind of bumpy, but we did well. We hit our 20th anniversary last September. And so that was exciting and quite shocking because I remember the first few years. You read the statistics. Most businesses will close in the first 3 years, 5 years, and every time I hit one of those milestones, I was excited that I'm better than 50%, better than 60%. So I kind of gauge myself against that. But over the years, we've grown. We have an office in New Orleans now, and it's been a great journey.
Isn't it amazing as you think about, how far, because we're also 20 years old. So I appreciate the timeline. I'm a little older than you, so I wasn't as young or as poor, but not too far ahead. And so I think about the way the world was in our industries when we started and how the world around our industries has changed in 2 decades. I can't imagine what the next 20 years is going to look like. How much has IT work and the internet in general changed for you from founding to now?
Oh, it's night and day. I was thinking about it this morning for our talk, and back in the day, there's very few people who knew IT. There was it was all machines in house. There was no cloud. There was no hardly any internet back then, even. And it is completely night and day, continuously changing. And that's IT in general. It's gonna what's today is going to be different next year and the year after.
Right. Right. And so I know that the biggest thing you do is help companies be safe now and continue to be safe. And so prepare for those changes. Do you find that you're just constantly playing defense?
I feel like we've kind of shifted to the offense the last couple of years. When you say protect, we're talking more about like cybersecurity and things like
Right.
that, and that has really changed in the last few years. When I started IT, the viruses were slipped out on the internet, and the person that put it out there just disappeared. And we had things like Lovebug that came out and deleted all your pictures and put text messages saying "I love you." They're just annoying. They really weren't. There's no economy behind them. And now it's a multi-billion-dollar a year business, probably in the trillions actually. So we made a major shift a couple of years ago and took security very seriously and rolled out a security program. And we have it. I have like 500 passwords now. It feels like, and I have to constantly pull my phone out to type in codes. But I sleep a lot better at night because I know I work with people that have been hacked, and it's such a horrible experience. But yeah, and it's going to change next year. Every quarter we're looking at new products to add to kind of protect it, and it's the new normal for us is constantly studying, constantly learning, constantly trying to stay ahead. So it's not really it's trying to stay one step ahead of them. Basically, is where we're at right now, and it's just the new. That's how things are.
Right. And I think you make a great point. The way that hacks or viruses have shifted, and now they're so economically incentivized. I read somewhere that if you have one of those cybersecurity insurance policies, then you have to agree to not pay because you don't want to reward that. Is that the mindset that y'all are in? How do you navigate around that? I don't want you to give away any of your top secret processes, but the whole thing is just fascinating to me because I know how many companies it's affected, and it's scary as heck.
Yeah. We go through the non-pay direction through being prepared, so there's certain ways they can hit you, and we make sure we have solid backups. The backup system we use can't be corrupted by the hackers, which is a technique they use to get you to pay. And so we greatly encourage our customers not to pay. for that fact, because it just drives it, makes it worse,
Right.
if people pay. And a new slip in that happened recently with the cybersecurity policies, if the hack came from a nation state that we're not allowed to do business with, then they won't pay the ransom, your cybersecurity policy. So that's kind of a change, and it's just better to be prepared in the long run. It's kind of a pain, but I've never had a problem having someone, plan on being prepared after they've been hacked. They understand the value. The trick is getting someone to understand before they've been hacked, to say, look, it's not. I know this seems expensive. It's not compared to what you're gonna have to deal with.
Right, right, absolutely. And I think that you just said it. The idea is not to deal with the paying or not paying later. It's to protect yourself at the beginning so you're not
Yeah.
in that position. And I know so many companies who are so vulnerable, and it's amazing to me. We look at even just some pretty big local companies that did not obviously use your services and therefore found themselves in a precarious position because one secretary at a one branch location clicked an email, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden it's everywhere. So
Yeah. You're
everybody has to be protected equally and know, the stupid little thing. Don't click emails from people you don't know. It just seems obvious, but we do it all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the weakest link is, basically what they're after, and if they can
Right.
get one person to do one incorrect thing. We talk about the castle defense. When we set up your cybersecurity plan, it has like a castle with to protect it. It has a moat, it has walls, it has holes to dump boiling oil on the invaders. It has
Yes.
archer slots. And it just one of those things wouldn't protect the castle. If you had a bunch of archers standing on top of poles shooting arrows, they're just going to run right past it. They have to have the wall. So the same thing with cybersecurity. So we just layer things because hopefully one of them will block them. Not hopefully, purposely. It's well
Right.
thought out.
Right. No, I love that. I know that as part of your entrepreneurial journey, you're a part of a pretty impressive peer-to-peer group. Can you talk a little
Mhm.
bit about that?
Certainly. And it's funny. My dad comes from an engineering background, and when I told him all the stuff we share in this IT peer group, it blows his mind because he's like, the engineers are really secretive about how they
Right.
do things. And so I belong to a peer group that is made up of IT providers all over the country. There's 9 companies in my specific group, and we're spread east to west, and we completely share everything with each other. In fact, I run a micro board from the group weekly where I meet with all of their employees in a specific role and guide them on problem solving. And so I'm working with their employees weekly, and I'm learning a ton because we all have great ideas that we're just swiping back and forth. So that's been extremely valuable to us in terms of elevating our financials, elevating our process. We have a security micro board that we meet weekly. We actually have plans if one of us were to get hacked, what the group is going to do to respond, who's going to fly out on site, who's going to call all the customers. And it's not going to be me calling the customers. The peer group's going to call them for me because I'll be playing quarterback. We already have all this figured out. And so it's been really that's been a major change. And if anybody in your industry starting out, if you can find some industry groups, industry peer groups particularly, that has been quite a difference for us.
And I think it's fascinating. The amount of information that y'all share, I agree with your dad. That's just mind blowing because usually people, especially in the same industry, even though y'all are in different geographies, you're technically competitors. So,
Mhm.
but I have to imagine that being surrounded by those entrepreneurs who are going through the same challenges you're going through and trying to implement the same growth strategies you're trying to implement, what an amazing, just huge toolkit of resources and inspiration and ideas. Do you walk away from those meetings just feeling energized?
Oh, absolutely. I had my meeting last week and I came back just, excited and pumped. And it's actually the peer group is founded on this book called The Go Giver, if you ever have a
Yes,
chance to read it.
I
Yeah.
love that
Uh,
book.
Yeah. And so we all read the book, and that's kind of the premise. And in fact, I'm doing some work for one of the peer members in Louisiana. He told me, he said, I'll be in Louisiana doing all these site surveys. And I was like, oh, great. We'll have to stop by and visit. And he goes, you know what? Could you do them for me? So we're running around all over the state doing his site visits for him because he didn't feel like traveling.
Sure.
But that's the kind of level he knows that I'm not going after his customer, and I don't want it. And that's something that I've come to realize too, is that there's so much work, particularly in our industry, and there's only so many people doing it at our level. that I'm not too worried about sharing, and the hustle that we're doing to stay on top of things is I could go tell one of my competitors, my numbers and everything, and 6 months down the road, I'm already sped past that, so information is kind of useless. So the way I look at it is, might as well share and elevate ourselves and help our customers, elevate their IT and elevate their businesses. 'Cause IT is so integral to their business. We really can help make or break a company, and so we really take that responsibility seriously.
It's as important as HR, accounting, payroll, marketing. I mean, those you can't operate without IT these days. You just can't.
No, no,
Absolutely
not at
not. As soon
all.
as you have 2 computers, you have a network. So you
Yep.
have to know how to communicate with them. You just said it, and it's something that's become now and unintentionally a running theme of the day is the belief or what seems to be successful entrepreneurs have the belief in a land of plenty, not a land of scarcity. Is that how you started your business with that mindset, or has your mindset evolved over time to get to that place where you feel like there's plenty enough to go around, I'm not worried?
I think I was always kind of just excited about, like, every time I pass a business, I'd be like, "Ooh, maybe I could do their IT." Like, that's how I started out, 20 years ago. And every company has computers. I've evolved to the point now where it's like, well, I like working with these companies. These are the ones that are good fits for us, that we basically can really elevate their IT. But yeah, I see the land of plenty, and we're not really geographically limited these days,
No.
to where I could be doing work all over the country if I wanted to.
Right. Well, and that's the thing that I think is amazing to me is in this belief of the land of plenty, it takes off the competitive nature of it. You said it. I could give all my numbers to somebody, and 6 months later, I have sped right past that point. That was for us the catalyst of writing the book. Was now we can go write a book, and we'll tell you exactly how we do what we do,
Mhm,
because at the end of the day, you still need us to do it.
mhm. Yeah,
It's
or they're not gonna wanna do it because it's too hard.
way too hard. Way too hard. I know for you, community service and giving back to the community has always been an important part of your journey. Talk to us a little bit about that and how you balance the business and the community service that you do and why those two are connected.
Absolutely. So, I was a Boy Scout. I enjoyed Scouts, and when I got out of Scouts, and started my professional career, I always felt something was missing. So I joined the Rotary Club in town, and I just hung up the gavel as president last July 1st. Yeah, and thank you. That was a lot of work, and so balancing that is a little bit tricky. You have to make sure you adjust your commitments. It's hard to say no for those of us that like to donate time, and so keeping your that plan in place. Like, I have a plan for the business. I have goals and sets. And when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I got asked to be on a board last weekend," and I was like, "Let me think about it. What's the commitment? What's the time frame?" So you just try to balance and make sure you can plug in, to don't overextend yourself, because you
Right.
can easily do that.
And I agree, completely. Don't do you find that by making sure you're carving out that time for service, that yes, it's taking away from the business, but it's also giving back to the community, which as business people we're supposed to do. So how do you encourage that mindset in your team? Roddy Bergeron's obviously not working right now because he's watching. Hey, I know him. He just said. So I know that Roddy's been very involved in the 705, and I think a lot of your teammates and employees have been out in the community. How do you drive that or encourage that in your team? Do you require it? Do you just say, "Hey, this would be a good thing"? How does that work for y'all?
We don't require it. We seek some participation, and we've been thinking of some ways to encourage it even more, to kind of like come up with a team plan that the team is all excited about to do. Because, like you mentioned, Roddy does kind of his thing, I do my thing, and we don't do a lot as a team together. So that's something we are interested in trying to figure out, to motivate the staff to kind of, hey, let's go out on a Saturday and pick up trash on the road. I don't know if that sounds exciting to them or not, but it's our, hey, let's make a difference in the community this Saturday. Let's frame it a little bit better.
Right.
Brand that, if you would.
I'm gonna get Molly right on that for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, and you said do something as a team, and as you were saying, pick up trash on the side of the road. I was thinking build a house for habitat. So I feel like
Mhm.
your answer is easier than mine for sure.
Yeah,
Less
I was
skill
starting low.
required. Work your way up slowly. So
Well, fun things you can do though is like go as a team, go work St. Joseph's Diner for a shift,
yes,
and that's,
absolutely.
really makes you appreciate what you have in life. And there's things that we can do that way. We had a former employee that worked a lot with the community garden in town. That was his passion, so where we could help out there, we would. So, it is tricky to kind of get everybody motivated in that if they're not really that's their initial mindset, but
Right.
we're working on it.
Well, and I think it also has to be tricky because what y'all do takes a lot of time and energy. People work really hard at your place. And so sometimes after hours, weekends, they're thinking, man, I don't want to go do more. I just want to, kick back. I want to relax. I want to take a breath. And so I think that starts at the top, and people seeing how much time you spend serving the community is inspiring and encouraging to others. What's next for EDC growth wise? Is it moving into another market, another location? The entrepreneur's journey, it seems, is never quite done. So, how do you see your next chapter being written?
We're looking to kind of expand our services a little bit into some areas that we've struggled in our current offerings, and in that realm, I really look to expand statewide. I don't know if we're going to open up a location in Shreveport necessarily. That's where we can't quite reach very comfortably right now. But I definitely want to make sure I take full advantage of Louisiana before I start hopping borders,
Right,
just because of the extra tax responsibilities, things like that.
right.
But that's what we see is essentially we've made a hard push to move away from a reactive kind of IT, which was
Mhm.
where we were 20 years ago when we started. Hey, my computer's broken, come fix it. And we've done a lot of work in that in terms of being proactive in a way that is process driven. So that way, it's not just kind of, oh yeah, we're proactive, we respond really fast. It's more of, no, we're going to actually fix the problem before it ever happens because we know that this happened on somebody's computer, and we have it in our checks to flip this switch at your office so that doesn't do that. So we made a big push there, and that's kind of where we see going. We still have a few customers that are in the reactive realm that we have to kind of usher along. This is something that's been very popular outside the state of Louisiana, but here we seem to be more of the quick draw. Let's go put our Superman cape on and go fix the problem, and that's where the customers are kind of comfortable with. So that's where we're going to be. We're going to be totally proactive and planning our days out with very little problems that come about, and expanding to just growing into the state.
Right. I love that. And, I'm here for it. So the more the better. When you think back on the 20 years of your journey with EDC, do you feel like there's some places where you really made the right call? At the time, you weren't sure, but later it turned out really great. And some places where maybe they became very expensive lessons that you learned?
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, there's there's so many to think of now. All the expensive lessons I've learned. Um, Me personally, though, one of the calls I made early on was to restrict the growth so I could spend time with my kids when they were a younger age, because I felt like that was time I was never get back. And I think back to a time where I spent 10 days in the New Mexico desert, hiking with my oldest, and then turned around a day later and was at a summer camp with the other one for another week, my youngest. And that month was pretty financially bad for EDC because I wasn't around. But I'm really glad I did it because that's the memories I'd never get back. And I knew that I purposely kind of held the company back. So that's a decision I was glad I made that didn't really help the company. But now that they're up and out of the house, I can really focus on the business. And expanding to New Orleans was another thing that I'm really glad I did. New Orleans is an entirely different economy than Lafayette, and that was the goal, was to kind of diversify our income from being an oil-based kind of economy. Although Lafayette shifted from that somewhat now, it's been nice. They're tourism-based heavily, so that's been something I've been glad to have. That just they to stabilize the economy.
Right, absolutely, and I think that diversification is important more so now than ever. I am shocked to say our 20 minutes have just flown by. I feel like Scott, you and I could talk all day about business and entrepreneurship and helping these companies grow. What's the question that I should have asked you that I didn't?
Um, I think that the question I would ask is, just for entrepreneurs in general, or someone who's interested in doing this, And the question is, do you ever feel like you've succeeded or finished? And the answer is
Oh,
no. You
that's a
know,
great question.
you never feel like you're done. Always reading a new book, always learning something new, reworking my HR skills, people skills, whatever. You never stop growing and learning in this
Right.
role. You're never done.
Right. No, that's absolutely great question and even better answer. Scott, thank you so much for your time. And for everybody watching and listening here today, thank you for joining us. We're almost halfway through with our day. We've got a whole bunch of more great entrepreneurs. And so stick around and continue to learn. Thanks, y'all.
When the day is through.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. I'm
I
glad
really
you put this
appreciate it.
together.
Me too. It's been fun. I always come away every time I learn something. And so I appreciate everybody giving their time, you especially, because it's so inspiring, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, like when you get to the peer group, oh, we're still alive.
Yeah.
So,
Um, we're still live. So Michael wants me to let you know that
well,
he didn't pull us off the broadcast.
oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so thank you again for your time. We really
All
appreciate it. And he can't pull us off, so we'll just have to leave. Thank you everyone for being here after the show behind the scenes.
right. Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks,
Scott.
Jackie.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.